Hi, everyone. I'm very caffeinated. Very caffeinated, wearing my Wake Forest gear. I never had a college spirit before. I went to BU, Boston University, which was city school, and and I just wasn't so into like college spirit, but I'm very into college spirit of my college that I'm in now, my University of Wake Forest. And I'm just getting back. I got in at 1:30 a.m. So I'm revved up. I'm revved up on some coffee. I see Timothy is here. Timothy, can you please request to join this live? And this isn't all about me. I really want you to meet my friend and colleague and sometimes students and inspirational friend, Timothy Lewis. So he's going to be hopping on, and we're going to be talking about mindfulness. And actually, when I was at Wake Forest this weekend, a lot of my fellow classmates were asking me about mindfulness, but I don't think it really got to the heart of it. There's just too much to cover. Oh, here he is. Hi, Timothy.
Hello, hello.
Yay, so good to see you on this
Likewise,
Monday.
likewise. I hear you all caffeinated.
I'm a little bit, first of all, I'm very excited because the book is coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I definitely need to breathe. I'm going to be making some time to ground and settle my body, because I think that excitement is good.
Absolutely.
It tells us something's going on. It gives us energy, and sometimes it could be like, a little bit addictive and can kind of cause us to trip up. I know myself, just knowing when I'm in that and taking some time to slow down is going to be really important.
Yes, yes. I love that.
And that's really why I wanted to have you, I invited you to chat with me today. I was really thinking about it, Timothy, and I know we have your podcast, your episode of the Beyond Trauma podcast up today. And we cover a lot on that about your journey. And I don't want to repeat what we have on there, because I want people to go and subscribe to the Beyond Trauma podcast and listen. And then, of course, you're in the book as well. So we'll leave that. But, we didn't get as deep into mindfulness as maybe we could have in the podcast. And maybe we can hold that as kind of the central subject matter of our chat today.
Awesome. Sounds good. Yeah.
So this weekend I was at Wake Forest. I was studying with many soon-to-be counselors and counselors, different therapeutic models, and there was a very brief discussion of mindfulness, and it left a lot of the counselors and future counselors wondering, like, what is mindfulness? So I was curious if you have a working definition that you use for what mindfulness is.
Yeah. I mean, the best definition that I have at the moment is that which suggests mindfulness is being present. And when I think about presence, I think about one, first and foremost, is recognition of, when we talk about presence and thinking about um, whether that is a point in time or, this idea of a future or a past, the present is literally like the right now, the right now, the right now, the right now. And so first and foremost, taking the opportunity to kind of settle into that. The next thing is that mindfulness really is less about labeling things as good or bad, but just acknowledging simply what is. And so from that place, I think it's important to kind of establish a sort of this awareness of how do we then begin to be in relationship with the present moment without labeling it. Because labels
Mm.
are super, super important. And it's something that comes almost naturally in a way. We label ourselves, we label others, we label things, we label places. And so, I think one of the first places to start is literally like, how can I be right here, right now, and at the same time, not necessarily label it as, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm tired, so it's literally like, this practice of being in the moment, right here, right now.
Without, yeah, I think a lot of people go to, they intellectualize it immediately. I often find that when we talk about this, or even when we talk about, being in the breath, people want to go to, even as teachers, when we describe to people to feel the feelings of the breath, I don't like to talk about necessarily labeling, like I have a short breath, I have a long breath. Immediately judgments come with that because
Yeah,
people think they're supposed to have a long breath, or there's just so many thoughts about how things should be that get us away from how things are.
yeah,
And I think that coming into sensation, and somehow being with the sensations, the feeling body, can help us, as because we need something to do, right? Like we're here in the moment. Okay, I'm not supposed to label it. What am I exactly doing?
yeah,
So I don't know. I usually say like feeling the sensations that are alive for us, whether that's
mm,
temperature, weight. Does that resonate for you?
absolutely. It resonates on a lot of levels because I remember in my early experiences of being in a yoga class, and teachers would use language like, feel your hip wrapping under, and I'm like, under what? Where is it going?
Yeah.
And I literally could not feel that. Or, wrap your triceps, and all of these like sort of, again, these felt sensations that I, at that point in time, didn't have an awareness of. And like you were saying, that sort of the language used now, I try and geared more towards sensation, recognize sensation as it's arising. And I will throw out, kind of some words: vibration, heat, temperature, textures. And even within that allows for kind of the individual experience that one can have within sensation. It's not, labeling. And again, I think it's natural that, those questions, those curiosities come up, and to, over time, practice leaning more towards that curiosity as opposed to like the criticism that says
Mm.
like, oh, this ache in my back is terrible, or, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, what is this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And experiencing that sensation, maybe as it's new, which it is. Each moment is new. We've never had these moments before. And it's a beautiful thing that our brain does to save us energy, to label, and so that we don't have to think about things. And sometimes that labeling and filtering deprives us of the wonder and newness of the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the word mindfulness, it comes from the sati, the Pali word sati, to remember. And another thing I hear a lot with mindfulness is people are like, well, I want to do it. I get it. It sounds great. But like the day goes by, and sometimes, like I hit my pillow and I realize I didn't do my mindfulness, all day. So
Yeah.
what do you recommend for folks how to remember to come back into present moment, feel the body, feel the breath throughout this crazy day, our crazy days?
Yeah. So I can share from my personal experience of what I like to call kind of these micro moments. And especially for me, I recognize where much of this happened for me in my commute, right? So I think a lot about what I'm doing in this waiting time, and those periods of whether it be waiting for a train or waiting for, in a doctor's office, and it's really identifying those sort of time points where we can recognize the right now moment, and then in that moment, really start to find what it is for ourselves. So, some people are more sort of keen to physical sensation, and they may begin by feeling into how their body feels sitting in a chair. Some people are more keen to, sensations of breath, or maybe even their thoughts, and just becoming aware of those moments. So like I said, I like to break down in sort of these micro moments. One of the ones that really stand out for me is when I would commute in going into the city for work. And over time, I noticed that, maybe it's normal, maybe it's a New York City thing, but in those moments where you sit down in the seat and instantly you're just kind of like dozing off, and, really, really difficult to just maintain. And so those became moments for me to, again, get curious about sort of what's going on here. Why am I always, tired at this point? Or even the curiosity around, like, how do I always wake up just in time for, my stop? So
Mm,
from those time points, I could start to lean more into curiosity, and then from there start to figure out, what aspect of mindfulness I want to explore. Because like you said, it is one of those things that we use the expression quite a bit, right? Be mindful of how you are talking to your coworkers. Be mindful of, and so, the words sometimes can get lost. Um, and really, like, for example, when I say, like, it's all practice, like, there are always these opportunities in each right now moment to tune into something, and that becomes the kind of the fun in a way. And especially in, like, the work that I do, is exploring what that looks like for people, because the more conversations that I have with individuals, even the more I learn about, whoa, you can bring in, some aspect of mindfulness while you're sitting waiting at soccer practice, noticing, the sensations in your body, or while you're driving, paying attention to how you're gripping the steering wheel. Or so there are all these sort of opportunities. And I think the more conversations that we have about it, not from a place of blame, shame, or necessarily needing to quote unquote fix something, but again, to be more present in this experience and experience the fullness of it.
mm, yeah. Yeah. I think I hear you saying, like, think about something you do every day or do regularly. You don't have to do your mindfulness the way first of all, we know new students or new practitioners, they want to do everything all at once.
Yeah,
And then it's overwhelming and we quit. So pick something, if you're commuting every day, that might be your time. And eventually that will build into more of your life.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a great trick. And I think we talk a little bit on the podcast, so I won't say too much about it, about transitions as well, as being a great time to think about. And that's something that I use, from one activity to the next, just noting those times. And since we do transition so much throughout the day, that gives me a lot of times to make sure that I'm being present and mindful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you work with a lot of young people, um, and introducing them to mindfulness. Are there any specifications for young people?
I honestly, I think that's the thing that excites me the most, is my experience in working with young people in the realm of mindfulness, because there's so much potential, right? When we think about, even from a scientific standpoint, so I like to bring a lot of the science into it. And so for young people, for example, when we think where they are developmentally, especially in terms of their prefrontal cortex
Mhm.
and what's possible, um, they're in a sort of prime area to, as they begin to practice aspects of mindfulness with themselves, with others, with, their relationship with others. I think that's the greatest potential that we have for the future. So much. Oh my goodness. Like I said, it excites me so much to be in a space, and introduce young people to ways to be in better relationship with themselves, their thoughts, their emotions, um, the feelings and sensations in their body. And like I said, together in community, in the spaces where they find themselves. So, the in a lot of ways, I would say that younger people have kind of this open capacity for really taking different viewpoints that sometimes, like I said, I'll use myself as an example where, my mind has been fixed at some point in time, perhaps making it more difficult as an entry point. But to be able to introduce that to younger people is like, it's mind blowing. And like I said, I walk away from it super, super excited each time.
Yeah, I love how you're bringing up mindfulness within a relationship. It's like there's the relationship to self, but the reality of our days is we're interacting with lots of different people. And
Yeah.
how does mindfulness play into our relationship with others?
Ooh. I mean, well, I don't know the exact quote or saying, but I've read references that oftentimes the things out there that are either triggers or buttons to be pressed becomes a point of introspection. We can look at that from the angle of, what is that either showing me about myself, or, how can I relate to what that person is doing? So I'll give you a specific example. To see a person. Actually, I have a very real example that happened the other day. So the other day, I was leaving a coffee shop, and there was a person holding the door, and out of generosity, this person's holding the door. Many people are passing through. Many, many, many people are passing through. And as I passed through, I said, "Oh, thank you so much." And they had this outburst, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, you're the only person that said thank you. Everyone else just walked through." And da, 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 da. And as I continued to walk, it made me think about the ways in which, and again, this wasn't a projection to me, but because I had that experience, it made me think, what are the ways in which, whether it be universe, whether it be source, whatever you want to call it, but there are doors open for all of us at all times. And how often are we walking through them and not acknowledging or not being grateful? So, we can look at experiences or things that are happening, and instead of necessarily thinking like, that person is wrong, that person is evil, that person is, we can again kind of zoom back from that, again, labeling, and become curious about it, see what we can learn from it. How can we learn and grow from these situations? Because again, I said it to a group of students I was working with the other day as we were talking about relationships. I said, I mean, we're all on this floating rock together, and, and so far, we haven't figured out how to get off of it. So
That
we need to
is,
figure out how to work together on it.
I mean, just that right there, right? The fact that we go through, most of us, every day, completely oblivious that we're pretending that that's not what's happening, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that like keeping that in our awareness, just that puts so much in perspective. And I love how you were talking about using that as a metaphor, like there are all these doors and there's all these moments that if we're present to them, could be these teaching moments that can make life so exciting. If we could look at like, what does this have to tell me about
absolutely,
myself, or
absolutely.
yeah, that's awesome. That's
And
really
even the when we think about just that, I mean, deeply ingrained in the essence of what it means to be alive, especially as a human being, is that aspect of learning and growing. We are born into this existence needing to learn and grow, and so as we practice to embrace that, we see the opportunities all around us, the opportunities to learn from something, the opportunities to grow through something, and sometimes that's a reflection of maybe how we even show up to a space. And so I think the relationship with ourselves and with others is imperative, and mindfulness gives us the opportunity to really develop that.
Hmm. Yeah, like when you feel that something's happening here, I'm reacting to what's happening in this space. Mindfulness is really the skill that teaches us to get curious about that and open into it instead of closing off, like that person offended me. Like, Okay, that bothered me. Why is that? And to see if we can stay a little bit longer
Mhm.
with things that might be new or might be uncomfortable. And I think we all need that right now, um, in order to come together a little bit less being sure that we know, and a little bit more of like curiosity about each other and our similarities and our different frameworks and viewpoints and cultural histories and all the things that we come into relational experience with.
Yeah. I mean, it's all a beautiful tapestry. Like that's what nature is. When you walk out into a space, I mean, you can even look at a single tree, for example, and within that tree, yes, they're all leaves of the same tree, but their patterns are different. The name of the game in nature is biodiversity, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mm, yeah, so true. And I just want to recognize that, sometimes it this all can sound easier than, said than done. And sometimes we're going to notice that we're having a reaction to something, um, and it's hard to accept what's happening, or we can't accept what's happening. And I wonder if you have any suggestions for those moments.
I mean, the one thing that really stands out for me is the saying, "This too shall pass." And,
Mm,
when I think about that, it becomes far more than words because, I can look back on my experience and see that there are multiple situations where in the moment something felt like, or it seemed like it was, just the end all be all. And like you were saying earlier, this ability, this willingness to just sit with it a little bit longer. And over time, we see that it passed. And becoming aware of that, I think, is really a superpower because it helps to build that resilience as these situations come up, as they will. You know, there are many examples of kind of metaphors for that, whether we look at clouds passing in the sky, whether we look at weather conditions as they come, whether we look at seasons as they change. We can even
mm,
kind of zoom down on a micro level to our own personal experience of, having this experience on a cellular level. Things are constantly coming and going, changing conditions. And so finding one's example of where things this too shall pass, how
mm,
can, a person apply that to their own life, right? Because again, spending the time to become reflective about experiences will help us to see that, again, just kind of sitting with it a little bit longer, and sometimes recognizing where it's helpful to, be able to talk about that, find the support that you need, because these situations, moments, they're real. They are lived experiences, right? And so
mm.
mindfulness doesn't teach us to push something away. It doesn't teach us to make something go away. In fact, it invites us to look at it, to see it, but at the same time, not to sort of catastrophize it as something potentially worse than it is in that moment.
Oh, there was so much good stuff in there. I'm like, I wish I had my notebook. Lucky we'll be able to rewatch this because you held so much both and both and both and. Because a lot of people, let me see if I can remember so many of the things that were coming to me. Well, I mean, the one big thing is a lot of people think that mindfulness means positivity and we have to be happy all the time. And there's, the denial of experience. I think it's really important that you pointed that out. And also the value and the importance of community, of having someone you can talk to. You're getting a lot of yes on that. I devote a whole chapter in the book to, community and how important that is. In the Buddhist tradition, we have the Sangha, and we need like-minded people that we can be around, that we can lean on, and that we can get strength from. That's so important, and they're out there. I know a lot of people are feeling lonely right now, a lot of young people as well, and I think that as yoga teachers and mindfulness teachers, a role that we can play is really in developing those communities together where people can have shared space. So I really appreciate that. And that I'm definitely going to be using the "this too shall pass" and the, you're talking a lot about the micro macro, and I'm thinking about when we were not too long ago with Deepak at Eddie's studio, and he was talking about, how our cells are recycling
Mm-hmm.
constantly, and everything is, and you're a scientist, so I know, everything is in flux, everything is in change, and nothing stays. Even when you're in it, it really feels like it. When you're in that dark spot, it can really feel like it. But like you're saying, referencing, go back, remember a time and how it passed, because I think that is very, very helpful. Look back at a hard time that you had, and how it moved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even on that, what you were just mentioning about our shared experience at the seminar with Dr. Chopra, you know, even zooming out from there is this space for awe and wonder and to go towards the uncertainty because, like,
Mm.
I'll use an example. When I was in the classroom, I would often talk about these complex processes that are happening in the body. And, I would talk to students about, there are cells dividing, and at the same time, there are cells producing proteins and this. And I would get so excited and just almost through the roof. And then at the end of that, I'm just like, and you don't have to control it. Like, it's just happening. And so there's then is this space to lean into trust,
Ooh.
that when we talk about like "this too shall pass," to be able to trust that even though I can't necessarily see it, I may not even have the, tangible see it, feel it, touch it, taste it resources to know exactly, but I can trust because on some level, there's something bigger. There's something bigger when I take a breath in and let that breath out, that oxygen is being circulated, and I'm not flipping the switch to do it. I'm not, I don't have to wake up in the morning and remember, okay, let me turn on, cell reproduction. Let me turn on protein manufacturing. I don't have to turn those things on. And so, connecting to that piece also creates this space for trust, for a sense of awe, for, again, just leaning into that "this too shall pass."
Oh, I love that. The trust, what I'm feeling into, because you connected that with the breath, is that like the body knows what to do,
Mhm.
to nurture and heal and resolve itself. And then the awe, I mean, that's such an important, it's really, really important element. And I do believe it's a longer discussion, but maybe we'll come back and have another one on that, just on that topic one day, because I think as there's been a move away from, standard religion, um, there something has maybe potentially been lost in, especially for the young people, and that they're looking for that, how to find that. And I think um, science, nature, yoga, like we might offer some suggestions, some solutions for that. And I think that there's still a lot of space for that to grow. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and materialize as an answer for, especially for young people. I'm really hearing that a lot. They're very aware of the hard stuff. Very, very tuned into the hard stuff, but maybe we also need to help them to see some of that awe and magic.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Timothy, that was a lot. That was awesome. I'm really glad we went here, because we didn't really get a chance to go here so much in the podcast. I mean, the podcast is great because you really gave us your story. I really want people to go check it out, from moving to New York and a public school teacher, and into where you're at now with your personal practice and with your mindfulness practice with young people. And we want to remind people to subscribe and rate and review, write a little review, so that these episodes can get more can get out there to the people that they would benefit from, because you obviously have a lot of knowledge to share. And I think a lot of people could benefit from hearing your story and your words, and more of your story also in the Essential Guide to Trauma Sensitive Yoga, which is out tomorrow. Today is the
Super excited.
last day to get those pre-sale bonuses, so get those orders in. I want to plug that you also teach for 3.5 Acres, a nonprofit that I founded in 2014, and you're teaching weekly Saturdays at St. Mary's in
Yes.
Harlem. It's I went over there. It's such a beautiful, special, sacred space. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And like by all means, anyone in the New York City area, please, please, please do share the work that we're doing at St. Mary's. That is absolutely wonderful, wonderful space, open to all. So please join us
Open
2:30.
to all. Chair yoga with Timothy, in a really beautiful space. That the energy there is just so good. That's the only way I can describe it. 126th Street. So you can just come by. It's free. Of course, the nonprofit is always happy if you're able and you want to make a donation, but you're welcome to just come and take class and be together in community Saturday afternoons. Did I miss anything, Timothy?
Not especially. No, this has been great. Thank you so much for everything, for the opportunity to collaborate with you on that project, sharing and listening to my story, and also seeing. I feel like, it's interesting. I feel like you saw so much more than, even because, for example, as a student at Land Yoga, there weren't always these opportunities to have deep conversations or to really have, a lot of exchanges in the practice. However, through the practice, I learned how much more you knew about me.
Yeah.
And maybe it was the way, like, one of the things that comes up a lot is, how we practice on the mat is how we practice off of the mat, or, at least there's the space for that, the space to, and so maybe that's a part of it, but I really appreciate that. And it speaks to you as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, you hope after a couple decades teaching that you start to get those little spidey vibes and really see people. It's an amazing magical thing that people talk about, or sometimes don't. That happens in the yoga room, and you're definitely one of those students that just really, they're all special to all my students, but you definitely stood out for me, and you're just, you've always been up for, let's do it. So I'm looking forward to more future collaborations, and you bringing me into your book and your next projects, because I know, I don't know, I feel like, those are in your future. So I'm here when you want me to model for you, and and next time I'll be your guinea pig in the book. So it's true. It's true. We're learning from each other. So that's the
Absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks, Timothy. I know you're busy. I'm gonna be out here blasting around about the last day before publication day. But I'll be posting this, and to everyone, Timothy's up on the podcast, and I have all your contact information there. So if folks want to find you, they can find you off my site and off the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much.
I'll see you the 13th.
Yes, indeed. Ciao.
Ciao.